Hi, Tony Anderson from Florida. How are you? It's Thursday, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I promised I would go live yesterday, and I didn't make it. I didn't make it on, so here I am today. I just wanted to start out by just mentioning something that someone had shared with me today from Facebook, because I think that it has value, at least for me it does. And it was related to the incident that happened a couple of days ago in Chicago. The police officer, her name was Ella French, that was killed in the line of duty along with her partner, was also shot. And the reason why it impacted me so much today is that a friend of mine sent me the audio, and it's out on YouTube. And the audio, it traced from the time of the shooting. I think the second officer that was shot, but was not, hurt real badly. The second officer was the one that that made the phone calls and got things going. And it's about a 10-minute audio that takes you through the two officers from the time they were picked up in the field until they made it to the University of Chicago Medical Center, where the one officer was dead on arrival, from what I understand. But I just wanted to mention it because, our police officers put their life on the line every single day for us. And although we know not every human being in the world is a perfect human being, and we've seen some of our police officers that have crossed lines, but they don't all cross the line. And I think it's important for us to honor the majority of our police officers that have given their lives for all of us. So it is kind of an emotional thing to me, and I did want to mention that because I don't think we should forget what those officers have done, and all our officers do every single day to keep us safe in our lives. So now I'm going to move on to talking about digestive disorders and how it kind of parallels to our products that we are selling. And so I'm going to just kind of jump in there. Hi, Serena. I did want to, hi, Jennifer. Oh, I agree with you. It was so disturbing today when I listened to that audio, and as hard as it was important that I do that because it grounds me once again in understanding how important the role our police officers play in all of our lives. So let's get on with digestive disorders, though. I listened to a video, I listened to our physician, Dr. Eric Naputi, last night. Hi, Serena. Dr. Eric Naputi last night, who is our physician advisor for Amplify and our gut health products. And he really did a nice overview, and I thought, I want to just share some of what he talked about because I think it kind of brings to light the importance of the products that we're selling and how it can parallel into helping all of us, including all of you out there, if you know people that fall into some of these categories, helping them get healthy again and be healthy. So I wanted to start out by saying that, and I've said this before, is that our gut is the window to our health. Our gut is the window to our health. And hi, Dana, how are you? And I want to make sure that we all understand that statement as being all about you as an individual and how healthy you're going to be into your future. You take care of your gut and your microbiome, or the organisms that live there, and you're going to be taking care of your health. So what does that depend on? It depends a lot, and I've said this before as well, onto our diet. So diets that are high in sugars and high in processed foods, you're going to have a microbiome that is not going to be diverse and as healthy as it needs to be. If you have a diet that's lower in carbohydrates and sugars and higher in fats and proteins and vegetables, you're going to have a diverse microbiome that's going to be able to have a healthier environment to grow in and to keep the rest of our body as healthy as possible. So I want to make sure that we all understand how important that really is that the diversity of our microbiome and the lives of those organisms, those viruses, those bacteria, those fungi, how important that is for our future health. And, you know, I think many times people don't really think about that when you're really young, because you're young and you're infallible, and you don't think about how your gut and how healthy you keep your gut is going to be how healthy you're going to be 30 years from now. So people, if you're young and you're hearing this, please think about that. And if you're older, like I am, you have to think about how you're going to get it as healthy as you can and keep it that way for the rest of your life. So with a leaky gut, or a gut that's not functioning as well, we are going to see inflammation. Inflammation leads to disease. We are going to see, issues related to our mood, because most of our neurotransmitters are secreted in our gut. So it's going to affect how our head is acting and how our head is feeling. You know, are you usually in a state of happiness? That's dopamine plays a role in that happiness. Are you usually in a state of being in a good mood and feeling good about the world and the world around you? That's serotonin and, some of our other transmitters, GABA. So just think about the fact that how you approach life is related to how healthy your microbiome is in your gut. Really important. It affects whether or not we have cardiovascular disease, how early we actually develop that. It affects our liver and how our liver is functioning, because if we eat the standard American diet, and I call that SAD, Standard American Diet, we end up with a fatty liver if we eat too much sugar, because what gets deposited there? Fructose, because fructose isn't used anywhere in our body. And the liver has to process that, because that's a processing plant right there in our body. It processes that, and because it can't be used anywhere in the body, it gets deposited there. And it's not to our benefit to pile on the fructose. And just remember, fructose is part of the molecule in sugar, sucrose. Has two molecules, glucose and fructose. That's what it's made up of, those two things. Our body can easily work with the glucose, but it can't easily work with the fructose. So again, plants itself in the liver. So some of the digestive disorders that Dr. Naputi talked about last night, and I'm going to go down the ones that he shared, and I'm not going to talk about each one, but what I want you to think about as I'm saying these diseases or these disorders, the common disorders that we see in the digestive tract, I want you to think about people you may know that this may relate to, because we can help them with remedying some of those. So Gerd, and we all know that Gerd is that gastric reflux that comes up into our esophagus and just nearly gags us if it gets all the way up into our mouth, and it burns really badly when it does that. I had a period of time in my life where I had a little bit of a problem with Gerd. On the most part, in the last 15 years, I have not, but it all depends on your diet. It has a lot to do with that. But it also has to do with, and I know people think it's because you have too much acid in your stomach, and it's not because of excess in hydrochloric acid at all. It has more to do with the fact that our microbiome is not healthy, and that our stomach is not healthy, and that now we're regurgitating up through that cardiac sphincter, which is what keeps it out of the esophagus. We're shooting acids up into our esophagus. And, one of the things that happens to people if they have it severely, and it lasts over a long period of time, is they get Barrett's esophagus. And that's a precursor to cancer of the esophagus. And I've had 2 friends in my lifetime, 2, that ended up with Barrett's esophagus. One ended up developing cancer. So keep in mind that the health of our gut plays a huge role in that gastric reflux. And one of the things that we do notice with folks that get onto our supplementation, our products, and that they modify their diet some, is that they don't really have a lot of issues related to that in the future. Maybe I take too many. We can talk about that, Serena. We can talk a little bit about what you're taking. Because I can tell you that what we're doing right now with these supplements are really helping people with their gastric reflux. So GERD, it's a huge one. It's probably one of the biggest things you hear people talking about is that they get the gastric reflux. Gallstones is another one. And, over the course of years, it's always been really easy if you get gallstones and you get that sharp pains, and oftentimes in your right shoulder, sometimes your left shoulder, sometimes in the middle of your back, and you find out that you have gallstones, and so they remove it. It's easy to remove nowadays. They remove it laparoscopically. You go in the morning, and by afternoon you're home. It doesn't mean you feel the greatest, but you are home. You don't have to have your gallbladder, but it does secrete bile, which is part of and it dumps into the small intestine, which is part of our digestive process. So it would be better that we don't have to have it removed. So is there ways in which we can correct that? Yes, correct your microbiome in your gut. We have to get our gut healthy. Crohn's disease, IBS. I know so many people with IBS. And that ranges from one of my really close friends has it so severely. He has diarrhea all the time. Some people get it the opposite. They have horrible constipation. And then sometimes it's a mixture between the two, but their microbiome is not in a healthy state, and they suffer from that greatly. And the diet plays a huge role in that, but we also have these products that can really help to get you to a point where you're healing your microbiome, healing your gut lining, and that you won't be suffering from it like you are today. But you play a role in it. You don't just take supplementation and think, oh, it's all taken care of, now I can continue to do the things I do. That's not the case. We have to play a role in the fact that we want to be healthy. I never thought about hemorrhoids. I always think about those because that's at the very end of our anus, and you get hemorrhoids there, and how painful they are and how horrible they are, and a lot of times they have to remove them because they are sometimes up inside of the sigmoid area, and but that's usually related to constipation. Fissures in the anus too, the little cracks that you sometimes can get, and they bleed. And, if you have diarrhea or you have constipation, either one, it irritates those. So that's another thing that can happen. Let's see. Anyway, those are a few. But what I wanted you to just think about is that when you're talking about digestion, because I thought this was really interesting when Dr. Naputi was talking about this, and I learned a lot of this when I was in school, but you don't really spend a lot of time thinking about the digestive process and what affects, all of these types of diseases that we see. But, digestion starts, because this is our secondary organ, it starts right here in our mouth. And we have salivary glands that sit up here underneath in our neck. And there's actually some big ones that are sitting right back here that secrete secretions that have enzymes in them that begins the digestive process when you begin to eat. One of the things he said in that tape I thought was interesting is that you should chew your food 25 times before you swallow. Think about that. I don't remember ever chewing my food 25 times. But if you don't chew your food well, hi Richard, how are you? If you don't chew your food well, you end up putting food down into your esophagus, into your stomach that hasn't really been broken down enough. So what's begun the secretion process in the mouth? And it's usually because of carbohydrates and sugars, which lipase is part of that enzyme that begins that whole process of digestion. If you're talking about fat, that's another whole enzyme that is secreted in the body that is that your mouth and because of the secretions of those glands tells your body to create those, like proteases for protein. So, and actually lipase is for fats. Amylase is for carbohydrates and sugars that are in your mouth. So then the food goes down your esophagus and into your stomach, and there's more digestion going on, and you should have chewed your food for 25 times, which, we don't. And then it gets into your small intestinal tract, which is really important because the gallbladder squirts in some of that bile, and the liver sends some different types of materials in there to help digestion, and so does the pancreas. Remember, insulin's a big part of that. But then that microbiome. Remember that microbiome and that universal, hi Michelle, the universal microbiome that we need to have present in our intestinal tract. Because if it's not universal enough, and if it's just there to take care of carbohydrates and fat and sugars, your microbiome is not going to be healthy, and your absorption is not going to be healthy. The diversity of your microbiome is everything. So it goes through your small intestinal tract, which is about 10 to 15 feet in length. So it's going to travel through there. It's going to be your food particles are going to be absorbed if your gut's healthy, and your neurotransmitters are going to be absorbed in that area as well if your gut is healthy. It's going to pass on down into your large intestinal tract, which is about 15 feet in length. And once it gets through the large intestinal tract, then it goes through the rectum and the anus, and then we defecate it. So just think about all the things that are going on in your body to digest the foods that we stick into our mouth every day. So, today I haven't eaten yet because I'm on my 18-hour fast, and I'm going to eat about 5 o'clock. And I'm going to have a salad with, I don't know what else I'm going to put on it, but some food on it, some good food like beans. But I'm going to try to do the chewing a little bit more and try to concentrate on that a bit, because I do know I don't do well with that. So when we're talking about all those things, those diseases that can affect our gut, our intestinal tract, and if our microbiome's not healthy, what else does it affect? It affects our immune system, which can cause, if we don't have a healthy immune system, we're going to have disease. All the rheumatoid arthritis and the lupus and, the autoimmune diseases if our gut's not healthy. And if you guys don't believe me, go and read in the literature, because not only did I listen to Dr. Naputi, but there's many, many videos out there today on the fact that our window of our health is related to that gut. So what do we have that we help you once we get you going? We want to help you with changing your diet, but happy tides with nucleotides. Happy tides with nucleotides. High fiber. 80% of the population or more does not have a high enough fiber. And fiber is important for your microbiome to have a universal population of bacteria, of viruses, of fungi. It's dependent on having enough fiber. So if you don't have enough fiber, you're not going to have a healthy gut. Nucleotides also is essential for all of your cells in your body, RNA and DNA. I did a video day before yesterday on nucleotides. Look for that if you want more detail on it. But it also helps with the healing process of the lining of the intestinal tract, and it allows us to have that opportunity to be able to absorb more readily. Really important. And plus, this is so darn tasty. It tastes like lemonade. And I get so excited when I get to drink this in the morning. I always add this to about 8 ounces of water, and I get it so it's really cold. And I love it when it's really cold like that. We do have chocolate, and we also have a berry. I can't say the word. Maybe, Jennifer, maybe you can help me with that. But it's like a berry tasting Happy Tides as well. I'm not in love with the chocolate myself, but I know some people that, especially kids in their younger years, they tend to like that a lot better. BioMyX, which is part of our Triad, so the nucleotides, Happy Tides, BioMyX, The tributerates, which are this gives it the ability to get into the intestinal tract, passing through the stomach, where the stomach can actually degrade some of your products. And some of the products that you take can be degraded in your stomach and never get absorbed in your intestinal tract. And if your microbiome's off, then you're going to have some problems. But this actually helps it to get into the intestinal tract, where it can be absorbed and where it can be used to help to heal the intestinal tract as well. And then it has A, D, and K. I've done other videos on this as well, so you can go back and look at those as well. Mark Eaton, I cannot believe it, from Iowa. Nice to see you. Then I wanted to just talk a little bit about Happy Humal. I did a couple of videos on this separately, so go back and look at those if you'd like. But this is a high anti-inflammatory, so it gets rid of free radicals in your body as well, and free radicals cause disease. So anti-inflammatory, strongly associated with xanthrohumol, which is probably the strongest anti-inflammatory that you can find in the natural earth. It's made of hops, so if you're a beer drinker, you're probably getting some. The taste of hops and what you taste in beer is xanthrohumol. But anyway, a strong anti-inflammatory. Then it has PQQ, which helps with energy. Carbon-60, which also helps with it's clouded to help with creating more of a longer length of life for human beings. And they've done studies in animals that I've read a little bit about, and they did it more with animals that have shorter lives, like mice and rats, and those that are taking carbon-60 live longer, those rats and mice. Not that we want them to, but they do. And then the other is curcumin 3, which again is strongly associated with anti-inflammatory. So those are the things I want to talk about today. And if you have any questions, you can private messenger me, and I would be glad to discuss those with you. And Serena, I know you had some questions related to what you're taking, and I'd be glad to talk with you a little bit about that if you would. Again, I would say the two biggest things that you can do to help your health and to help your digestive system and to help the microbiome of your intestinal tract, which is the window of your health, I'm going to say it again, is to decrease your stress as much as possible. And there's a variety of ways of doing that, but some of us exercise. I'm a swimmer and I bicycle. But lastly is your diet. The diet plays a big part. If you're going to have sugar, processed foods in your diet, you are not going to have a healthy gut. And I doubt that I would be able to help you as much with the outcome for your health related to supplementations if you're not willing to go on to go on that journey and that pathway of getting healthier. So that's all for now. And I'm going to say goodbye from Florida. See you soon.